Welcome to Sunstar Knits. I'm Eleanor, and this is my knitting podcast. I haven't filmed in about 3 weeks. I had a lot going on. I went on vacation to visit my sister. Last week was my first week of school, so I was getting back into the rhythm with all of that. And so I have a lot to update you on. I have one finished object. I have a lot of WIPs, to be honest, and a lot of acquisitions because, as I think I said in my fall knitting plans video, I participated in a yarn crawl. I participated in the Sierra Nevada yarn crawl, and I'll get into a bit more of that in the acquisitions series. I also have new lighting, so I actually have a light, which is good, and I got a microphone, so stepping up my game. Let's get into my finished object. So my sister lives down in LA and she works at Disneyland, so anytime we go down there, she signs us in. So this was actually a kind of break for me because with my grandma's sweater, I had to finish it really fast, and I ended up getting a lot of pain right here and pain in my wrist and my hands and tendonitis and stuff. So I decided that during that 4 days we were down there, I was only allowed to knit at Disneyland. So I did break that, but for the most part I stuck to it, and this is what I made. So this, is a tie cardigan. It is free-handed, yes. So I kind of came up with the composition, made these little I-cord ties. There, you can see a bit better. So I used an 8mm knitting needle and the Loops and Threads Heathered Tweed yarn. Oh, it's going to be inverted, but in the color, where is it? Oh, it's just a number. So the color 2221. So 2221. It is this beautiful kind of speckled plum with white and black speckles in it. So I knitted it. I started with the back panel. So I knit the back panel all the way to just under the underarm, and then I picked up stitches at the shoulder here and knit both of these front panels down, and I did increase to sort of do a little bit of neck shaping there. And then once I got to the desired underarm length or armhole length, I joined the front and back and just knit in one big long round. And then I picked up for the sleeves, I just picked up stitches and I did a 3 stitches to every 4. So I picked up 3 stitches to every 4 spots that there were. And I knit for, I think, about 25 rows before I started slightly decreasing. And then I pretty heavily decreased here just because I like it a bit tighter around my forearms. I think I decreased by 14 stitches. And then for another 25 I went, and then it's all finished off with this I-cord. So there's I-cord on both the sleeves, and then there's I-cord around the base. Can't really see very well, but base and sides. And I did that with this iCord tool. It's called a Chordsmith, I believe. I got mine from a shop off of TikTok. There's a lot of different places you can get this. So it just super simple. You wrap yarn, pull. If you want a more in-depth video, I can give you that. But yep, and I used the same thing to make the ties. Just looped it around the iCord and made it. Really proud of this. Really happy. I do have to block this so that it won't curl as much, but I am super happy with that. So that is my one finished object of the past 3 weeks, and you will see why. So not only have I been trying to slow down like my knitting, give my hands a rest, as I said with that chapter, or that project. Why did I say chapter? I took apart a project. I frogged an entire project. So last podcast, I showed you just a free-handed drop shoulder sweater that I talked about trying to mimic like mohair sweaters. And I finally got the smart idea to take it off the 10mm needles I was using because the cord wasn't nearly long enough to have me try it on. And I put it on some scrap yarn and I tried it on, and it was humongous. Like the drop shoulder, normally this is the top of my shoulder, and this is about where I like my drop shoulders. So just slightly oversized. So if this is normal, like my top of my shoulder, this is normal. It was like here. It was almost to my elbow, and that was on both sides. Because again, I just cast it on an arbitrary number and started. So it's all balled up here, or caked up. I'm happy I did it because that's kind of one project off my brain, and I can always start again. I might just find a free simple drop shoulder pattern. I've been watching a lot of Knit California's videos, and her California sweater just came out, so I might use this to knit that. Sorry, I just dropped something. To do that, just depends on if I find a free pattern that I like or not. So that's one whip out of my head. But I decided that with school starting, I needed a really quick and easy project to just take with me to school that I would be able to work on. And I had all of this acrylic loops and thread yarn, loops and threads, impeccable yarn that I bought for, I think I was going to do a striped hexagon granny square cardigan, but I did 2 of those in the same color, and I just kind of got tired with it, so it was just sitting there, and I only had like 1 or 2 balls of each color, and so I decided I was going to jump on the very late trend of patchwork cardigans. But I didn't just want to do like solid granny square colors, because I have 5 different colors of this. I have a green, I have like a mustard yellow, I have a pink, I have a purple, and I have a blue. And so I was just going to do, each square is 2 colors, and there's 3 different types of squares. So I have just a solid granny square, just solid double crochet granny square in the striped pattern. And then I have your normal granny stitch granny square in the alternating colors as well. Then I decided, I saw on Pinterest that a patchwork cardigan with flowers. They were, I think specifically the retro daisy square that I've seen a lot, but that square was just too big. I wanted them all to be about the same kind of 4x4 size. So I found a free pattern. I found a video, but it's a downloadable pattern from Yarnspirations, like Red Heart's parent company. And it's this cute little daisy square. So my plan is, I figured out I need about 60 squares, which is the perfect number because the color combos plus the square combos will give me 60. So the way I'm keeping track is each starting color is one thing. So I'm going to have 4 yellow flowers with different colors on the outside. So this one's green, but I'll have a yellow purple, a yellow pink, a yellow blue, and it's the same for that. So like I've gotten all of my pink squares done. So I have all of my pink, blue granny squares, but I also have a pink purple. Like the center color is the starting, and all of them start that way, and then the outside color changes. So that will give me just about 60 squares, and then I will probably whip stitch them all together once I figure out the layout I like, and then I will switch to knitting. Sorry, I just hit the mic, but I will switch to knitting for the ribbing just because I love the look of knit ribbing so much more than crocheted ribbing. It's just so much easier. So that is whip number 2. Whip number 3 is actually one of my fall knitting plans. So I, like beginning of September, ordered yarn for the book club cardigan. I ordered this light beige in Drops Nepal. So Drops Nepal is the worsted weights size yarn of Drops Lima. So it's the same exact makeup. It is 65% wool, 35% alpaca. And these are 50-gram balls, and it is a very what I just figured out is called a rustic yarn. It's very rustic wool. It's got a lot of strings coming up, but it's still, to me, it's soft. It's pretty soft. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. But I love it. It's a great yarn. I've yet to wash it, but most of my knits that I've previously made, I just wash in gentle cold in the washing machine and then lay flat to dry. So I'm using Drops Nepal in the color light beige, I believe. The number is 0206, and I'm doing the, hold on, I have a cable needle because it's an all over cabled cardigan, but I'm doing the book club cardigan. Oh, that's the wrong way. It would help if I showed you the front of this cardigan. So the book club cardigan. So all over cable textured pattern. I finished the back panel, and I've picked up for the left sleeve. So that's the back, and folds over and lays like this. And I'm using the recommended 4mm needles. I probably should have sized up. I did do a gauge swatch. You'll be proud of me. And when I checked my gauge, it only showed that I was 1 stitch. So the gauge is 18 stitches by 26 rows are a 4-inch square. And I had a 17-inch or 17 stitch gauge. I don't check my row gauge because I don't really think it matters too much, because it's pretty easy to make something longer or shorter depending on your row gauge. I'm realizing I probably should have. So I didn't think it was too big of a deal that I was 1 stitch smaller, because that would just mean that my stitches, my sweater would be bigger, and I wanted an oversized cardigan. But after finishing this back panel here, after finishing it, I decided, well, why not check my gauge again? And I don't remember what my stitch gauge was, but it was close enough. It was either 17 or 16. It had changed by 1 stitch. But then I decided, hey, for the fun of it, why don't we just check my row gauge? And so the row gauge was supposed to be 26 rows to 4 inches, and mine is 36 rows to 4 inches. So the way the pattern works is you cast on this many stitches, and then you work 2 separate charts for each shoulder, increasing each round till you get to here, and then you increase off of the charts here, and then you just knit normally. And so I was like, okay, I just followed all of that. It said to knit from the last increase to a specific inch gauge, so I did, or inch to a number of inches, however this long it was supposed to be, and so I did that. But I was reading through the pattern, and after it has you pick up your shoulder stitches and start knitting, it has you knit to like, I think it's like 10 inches for my size, and then you stop and you pick up the other one and you knit for 10 inches, and then you knit in the round. So it's like, hey, okay, let me measure my back panel and see how long it is. It's like 9 inches. So I'm thinking I'm going to knit up one side how it's supposed, like one side to pattern, and then I might have to go back through and knit this back size longer, which is one of the reasons I just have this like ball hanging down here, because I don't want to cut it and then have to like spit splice, whatever. It was just easier to have this hanging down. So I might have to do some finagling. I'm also going to have to look into it because I watched a lot of videos, and a lot of people were saying they had to like switch up which armhole size they were doing, because the armholes are apparently very small. I don't know. This is the first pattern I've ever done with this sort of construction. I find it I'm trusting the pattern, but I'm finding the fact that this is where my like neck is supposed to go kind of concerning, because there still has to be a collar here. So I don't know. I'm trusting the pattern. I'm hoping it'll turn out great. Yeah, I'm still very excited. It's turning out very good. I've already definitely made more than one mistake, but that's my one mistake to make sure my sole, or an Irish tradition, you have to at least make one mistake in your knitting or crochet, because they believed that with every piece you make, you put a part of your soul into it. And so if you don't make a mistake, your soul is trapped in that piece. So I've made my mistake there. And then another thing is, so the shoulder you're joining to kind of has these like weird half part of this full diamond piece. So a lot of people have either been just starting the full pattern the way it starts, which it starts here. So you would start like right here where this the diamond starts, but you have this like weird kind of not meshing of the cables. And so a lot of people have been trying to combat that and kind of switch around where they start the cable chart to fix that. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. I want it to look like one cohesive like piece of fabric. And I tried. I failed kind of. It's not horrible. The more I look at it, the like more okay I get with it. I'm wishing I had just started the pattern how it said to, but I decided to just cast on or pick up the stitches, and this portion right here, I did all the angling till here, whereas this side is kind of hard to tell, but this right here I just knit straight, so it doesn't match up with this, but because I don't think anything's going to match up like this, because the back panel is knit down, so it's knit straight, whereas the side panel is knit kind of at an angle, so everything was going to be turned. So I'm actually okay with the way it looks looking at it like this. If I'm just looking at it straight on, like, it looks okay. It's growing on me. So that is the book club cardigan by Sorry Nordland. It is definitely definitely more advanced pattern. It's a little confusing at times. So my next whip, the rest of these I haven't made a whole lot of progress on. I've made some. I think, so this is the Moan cardigan by Engineering Knits. I think I've done like, I think I left you at this row. So I've made a repeat and almost like, so that would be the end of one repeat. So one repeat and half of the other. I'm kind of in the middle of a row here, so it's awkward. But my sister, I've shown her a picture. She's loving the colors. Apparently I misinterpreted her text, and she actually wanted the main color to be green and then the dots to be purple and white. But after seeing this kind of bright electric green, she's okay with my looking over that. So again, this is the Moan cardigan by Engineering Knits. I had to size up to 4.5mm needles in order to meet gauge. I am using Knit Picks Brava Sport Weight. It's 340 yards per 100 grams. It is 100% acrylic yarn. This is the color white. I don't think I have any of the other colors. So sorry. It's just a dark kind of plummy purple, or it's a bit cooler than plum, but purple, and then kind of a bright electric green. Not much to say. Again, not much progress to be made. Very detailed pattern. Kind of confused on the repeats, like how you count the repeats or like the rows in your dot pattern. Sorry. So that was kind of confusing, but you really don't have to understand the rows. Or the counting of the rows, you just knit. Once you get the pattern down, it's pretty easy to figure out. So again, that was the Moan cardigan by Engineering Knits. My next is my Arctic light sweater. So this I've also made very little work on. This is also being knit on 4.5 needles. The yarn is Pound of Love by Lion Brand. And this one, sorry, I just hit the microphone again. This one stumped me. So because I was doing so well with the book club cardigan and those cables, I decided I would pick this back up again and start again. And it doesn't look like I've made too much progress, but I think I've done at least like 3 or 4 rows, which is a lot in like perspective of everything. But it stumped me because I had finished it kind of like in the middle of a round, and like I was just gonna go back and knit everything, like finish the row and then like continue working on it and kind of like do one episode of a show on this and then switch to the book club cardigan and do an episode on that and just kind of like try and get to it because I really wanted to finish the yoke before the end of September. Now understanding that's not going to happen, but really wanted that to happen. But as I was going through it, I got confused. I was like, oh, it looks like a cable had been done, but like the way it is knitted is it's a set of 3 cables. You have chart A, which is your front and your back, and it's your front and your back. And so it's the big braided one, and it's from there to there. And that's your A. And then you have B, which is your raglan seam cable. So it's just a very simple that. And then you have your sleeve chart, which is the fishtail chart with this turns into something. And so I was looking at all of the charts, but it looked like one of my A charts was a row ahead of the other one. And I was a bit confused because I was like, I have a pretty clear beginning of round marker, which is these 2 stitch markers clipped together because I have all of the because I have so many stitch markers, and at the time I didn't have any distinctive ones, so that was my way of distinguishing between just the raglan increase stitch markers and beginning of the round. And so it kind of took me like a while, and I was just like, this one's a row ahead. And then I was looking at it because you're supposed to start, you end with a chart B, so you end with a raglan sleeve seam. So it should be your chart C, so your sleeve, and then your raglan seam, and then that's the beginning of the round marker. And then you go into chart A, B, C, B, A, whatever, like your charts. And I was starting with a sleeve. And I knew that wasn't right. And I knew I hadn't always been doing that. So somehow my beginning of round marker got moved or something happened, and so I ended up just moving my beginning of round marker, and now it's all good. But after that, I was like, you're in timeout, pretty much is what I said. So some progress, happy with the amount of progress, but not a lot of progress. So this week it'll come out of timeout and I'll put it back into the rotation of everything. So that was the Arctic light sweater by Veronica Lindberg, who is also known as Kutavakika on Instagram and YouTube. I don't know if she has any other social media. And my last work in progress, my last whip, is a new cast on as well. And it goes into my acquisitions because it is my autumn mittens that I was telling you about, and that I told you sorry, that I wanted to get yarn for it, at the Sierra Nevada yarn crawl, which I did, and then prompted to immediately cast it on, and then realized I had a lot of brain powered knits, because this is one is color work, and then I have 2 cabled, and then I have the Moan cardigan, which is not as much brain power as the Arctic Light sweater or the book club cardigan, but it's enough. So this is the first acquisition. So this kind of goes into the Sierra Nevada yarn crawl because the yarn crawl had merch. So it had 2 kinds of bags, and because it was my first time, I really wanted both types of bags, and I actually really liked it. So I think the colors this year were like a bright pink and a teal, or just like a blue. And they had 2 different types of bags. They had a tote and they had a snap bag. And so the bag, I got both, but this is the bag. This has the yarn labels in it because I try and keep those. But yes, so it's got this nice little zipper pouch that you can keep stuff. I have a extra stitch marker in here, and then I have a smaller pair of sock needles. These are 2.25s with a 10-inch circumference, so they're a bit too big for me right now, like for most of like this project. This project is supposed to be on 2.5 millimeter needles. So that's the bag, and then it has this nice snaps, which is what's really nice about this, especially with color work, is you can pull out and then you can separate the colors by the snap so that you keep them, it's like another layer of separation. So these are the autumn mittens, and I have the cuff and started on, so this is a cuff 2x2 rib with these kind of racing stripes, and then, sorry, it's stocking it now so it curls, and so I have these little diamonds, and then I'm starting on the colorwork pattern, but it is very small. It's not very fiddly, which is surprising, but it's very small, and it doesn't hurt my hands. It's just the pattern is kind of hard to read, and it's my first pair of mittens, so I'm kind of figuring out the like thumb increases and all of that. But so far, it's been really nice, and I have tried them on because this looked really small. So I tried it on, and they do fit me, but they end up being like all the way stretched out, which I don't know if I want, but I'm hoping with blocking will relax it so that it's not as stretched out. I don't know. And if I end up not liking the way it is, I'll just put them in like the community bin of like, I made this for fun, like it doesn't fit me, it doesn't work, I don't want it anymore, and it becomes anyone who's up here or in my like visiting or lives in my house needs a pair of mittens and they fit, they can use them while they're here. So the yarn, both the yarn and actually the needles, because I don't have needles this small, and I knew from past experiences trying to knit socks, I don't like doing magic loop. I do not like magic loop, so I got, I believe these are 8-inch circumference needles, and they're a little crowded, so I have to work on stretching it out so the floats work and all that. But I don't remember what kind of needles these are, and I did not keep the packaging, but I got them from one of the stores. And then this yarn, I got, it called for fingering weight yarn, but I got a sock yarn. I got 2 sock yarns, which this one's a bit thinner. The color work is definitely thinner than the plain white, which I'm okay with, and I figured gauge doesn't really matter. I don't really care if I can wear them or not. So the colored yarn is this like, it's like orange with browns and greens. So very much like I think of when I think of fall. And it is the Watercolor Sock yarn by Lanes du Nord, which is, I have another thing from this. So it's Watercolor Sock, Lanes du Nord, made in Italy. It is 75% lana, mulesing free, tratta color free wool, and 25% nylon. So it's in the color 103. I love it. It's great. This is going back in the bag. And then the plain color is Cascade Yarns Heritage 6. 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Does this have a weight on it? This one's a bit more. Cascade Yarns are less hand-dyed, more like conventional. They're definitely both not hand-dyed, but I have never used a Cascade yarn before. Didn't really realize this was a Cascade yarn. Cool. Very soft, very nice. They're going to be very warm. I'm very happy. I'm already thinking of my next pair of mittens. I'm hoping they will be, see if I can figure out, if you know, you've got like gloves and then you've got mittens. Then you've also got like the weird in between where like this, your pointer finger is, pointer and thumb are both loose, and then your other like 3 fingers are in a mitten together. And I'm thinking I could make myself a pair of those because then I could knit with them. So I could have warm hands and still be able to knit with them rather than like making fingerless gloves, which are kind of counterproductive in my situation because the tips of my fingers are the thing that is generally the coldest. So there, it doesn't make sense to have fingerless gloves for me. So that was my very last whip. So let's get into acquisitions. So you already saw some of my acquisitions, but another thing with the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl is they have each yarn store. Sorry that took me so long. Each yarn store has a stitch marker that you get for going there, as well as you print out like a passport and you get a stamp, and at the end, your like very last yarn store, whatever you go to, you turn it into that yarn store, and then you'll get entered into like a Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl raffle. I don't believe I won any of the raffles, as I haven't gotten contact because each store had their own like raffle that they would do. That you like got entered into as well. So I went to 5 different stores. So I have 5 stitch markers. So the first store I went to was, this was their stitch marker, and it was the Knitting Nest. Sorry, it's inverted. I don't know how to switch that around. But all of them have a little design on the front and then the name on the back. So it's a Knitting Nest, and that's in State Line. And I'd never been there before because it's pretty small. It's not always open, and you kind of have to make appointments to go. And yeah, so it was my first time going to most of these. I think it's the first time going to all except for one. And it was very nice. The sisters who ran it, very, very nice. Totally recommend going there. It was a little small, but that's where I got the watercolor socks yarn from. And I don't know, it was very, very fun. I actually got a pack of stitch markers. So gold stitch markers. One of them is on like place markers as well, because I'll grab it for you. But it's on the book club cardigan, and it's a little dragon. Hold on, let me turn it so you can see. So it's a little dragon. So that's one. And then there was also like an angel wing and a rose, all gold in there. And so I got that there as well. And I got the knitting needles for the mittens there. And I think that was it. I tried to stay on a budget, but I still spent a lot of money. So the second place I went to was Knits and Knots in Minden, and this is their stitch marker. Very pretty little tulip. And that was it was the second time I'd been there. So I'd been to 2 previously, and I went there the first time to get a very specific yarn for my dad to make him a hat, which never ended up happening because I wasn't a very good knitter at the point and I didn't know what I was getting, and it ended up being repurposed for another project for him. But yes, that was the first time I've been there. And then this time I went there, I kind of got a lot from them. I got this very much yellow gold skein of yarn that is hand dyed. It is from Argakian Fibers. It is called Tear Me to Pieces. That's the colorway, is Tear Me to Pieces. It is 70% superwash merino, 30% silk. There's 438 yards to 100 grams. It is a fingering weight. And I got this not just because the color is, again, lovely. That's pretty true to color, what you're seeing on the screen. But because I am planning, hopefully, if I have enough whips done to start a bigger project. In the winter, I would like to start the porcelain sweater. And I don't know who that's by yet. I will, when we get to it and it becomes a thing or a whip, I will find out who it is by. But I had been seeing the porcelain sweater everywhere, and I just kept seeing it the same. It's either a light colored base with a bright blue or a gray base with a bright blue, and I just kept seeing it the same and the same and the same, because porcelain is very much white and blue, white and blue, white and blue. But then I remembered that I'm 90% certain into Japan, and I believe it's called kintsugu. It's when porcelain or ceramics breaks and they repair it with gold. And so I got this to be paired with, I believe I'm going to go with Knitting for Olive's soft silk mohair. There's also a Rowan one I could do, but that one's just really expensive, and Knitting for Olive's a bit better. That's more of a like darker gold to hopefully offset this from being so yellow and kind of make the gold pull through in order to like mimic that through the piece. And I'm gonna have like cracks. I don't know. I'm just really happy about that. I'm hoping I'm gonna take this cool piece and hopefully make it mine and unique and even cooler. So that's the yarn I got there. Then I got these, and you could see them. They're holding stitches for my book club cardigan, getting mentioned a lot in this episode, but they are pearl strings. They're try-on strings, so you can put all your stitches onto it and then be able to try it on, so you don't have to put it on yarn or worry about that. So I've used it a couple times. They're gone now. I used it with the mittens to try them on to make sure they would fit, and I'm now using it with the book club cardigan. And then I have 2 more things from there. I have these stitch stoppers. I don't have any, and these were on sale, and they looked super duper cute, and I love flowers. I like flowers, and I needed some stitch stoppers because I don't like, if I can help it, I don't like adding an extra cable because the join spot is a bit finicky and requires a bit more pulling and stuff. So I try to fit as many stitches as humanly possible on a cable before having to add more. So those will be nice because of more than one occasion I've come back to a project and there's been a chunk of it just sitting off the needles. So those will get put to good use. And the last thing I got from there is this little faux leather tag. Can you focus? So it is just faux leather. It screws on. It's that little heart thing, and that says handmade on the back. Little yarn heart. And I got just one because I'm planning on putting this on my grandma's sweater. So you may have thought, yeah, the autumn alpine sweater is done. She actually wants me to add some length to it to make it a bit longer so the wind can't blow up it, and to make I'm going to redo the binding of the bind off so it's a bit tighter because I did Jenny's super stretchy bind, or surprisingly stretchy bind off, and it's just a bit too stretchy. So I have to redo that a bit, and I'm going to pop that on so she kind of knows front from back, even though there's technically not a front and a back, but she was asking, so I picked that up for her. And that was Knits and Knots in Minden. Next, I went to Yarn Refuge, and this was the second store that I had already gone to. I had gone to it once before because I was starting to explore nicer yarns, and I didn't realize we had so many yarn shops around me, and it was one of the first ones that popped up that was like, it's in kind of like the central area of Reno. If you know Reno, it's kind of off like 5 minutes, probably closer to 2 minutes away from like Costco. So it's a pretty central area for me, at least, to get to. So I had been, I don't know if I showed you this, but this is the stitch marker. So I'd been before, and going back, it was super duper fun. That's where I got the Heritage 6, so the white yarn from the mittens from, and they had a 50% off, like little bin all the way in the back, and I wasn't going to get anything. I wasn't going to get anything from it, but then I saw this like dusty lavender. It's a bit more purple, less gray in person, but it's very much a purpley gray yarn. And I felt it, and it was super soft. And it was just sitting in the 50% off bin, and I was like, I could get like 2 of those. And then I was looking at it, and I was like, well, it's 50% off. So that means if I get 4, it's only really like buying 2, right? So I got 4 of them. And it is Lignes du Nord, so the same brand as the watercolor socks. Soft Lino, natural line. It is color 15, Thistle. It is 80% linen and 20% Prima cotton. So I was thinking that I could make a little camisole or like a top or something, because it's 50 grams and 135 meters. And I got 4 of those. So this should be enough for like maybe the poppy tee if I decide I want to do another petite knit pattern. Just some staple like summer top. So I got 4 of those from the Yarn Refuge. And then I got the Heritage 6. And that's actually it. That's all I got from there. And just because there were a lot of people, it was very busy, and I was ready to leave. So that was all. And so the next one I went to, actually I did a lot of stuff in between because I was supposed to go to lunch with my friend down in Reno, but she ended up having to stay late at work. So I got books and I went to REI and spent money that I didn't need to spend. And then I went to Jimmy Bean's Wool. And this is their stitch marker. So it's another splat. And I went there and I decided I wasn't going to get yarn. I decided I didn't need yarn. That was not like something I wanted to get. And as I was talking with my mom about this place before or after I got home, she looked at me and she was like, as I was describing it, she's like, so it's like the IKEA of yarns? Because it is. Because I was very confused. Because walking in, there was like a pile of the Sierra Nevada yarn crawls, like sponsored yarn, dyed for this, whatever. And then there were like some piles of stuff, and then a bunch of rooms and things. And as I was walking through the rooms, I was like, there's only one skein of yarn here a lot of the times. And a lot of the times they're hooked onto like a pipe on the wall or like some sort of like fastening, like not a shelf, but like something you can like, that's like a pipe that comes out of the wall or whatever with like an O-ring, and they're just like clipped onto that. And so I was like, so do I just like take the O-ring? Like, what do I do? And as I'm walking through this more and more, I get to a back room and there's just like a warehouse with all of these boxes and boxes full of yarn. And so I still didn't get any yarn. I might go back because there was a color I was liking. There was like a really pretty like purple color, but I'll definitely go back and it'll be more of a in my rotation. But I decided that I was going to get a bag instead, because as like the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl Instagram had been posting all these photos, and a lot of their photos featured some bags, and one of them was this, it was like a rectangle like box type bag that was really pretty, and I was like, oh, I really like that, like I find that really interesting. And so I was like, I'm gonna get a bag instead. So I like walked over to all their bags, and they were all Della Q bags. And they had this hat box bag that I had seen a while ago on Pinterest. And I was like, I want that so badly. Like, I'm gonna buy it here, and I'm gonna get it. And then as I was walking around and I was looking and I was thinking, and I was like, that hat box bag is $180 something. I cannot spend $180 something on a bag that I'm only ever going to use for knitting, no matter how much I like it. And it was the same with the rectangle one, which was like the train car bag or something train. And I was like, same thing for that. No matter how much I like it, I'm never going to bring it out with anything besides a project. And the amount of times I actually like bring a project with me out and about because most of the time I'm alone, so I'm driving and there's no time to really do it. So I decided no. And then I was like, oh, but I can get like a tote bag or like a backpack or whatever. And I was like, I don't wear backpacks. I don't bring backpacks. Like I have one Loungefly backpack that I'll bring when I need to fit more stuff, but rarely I will bring a full-size backpack out and about. And the tote bag, no matter how cute it was, I don't need a bag that big. It was pretty expensive. And I was like, I don't need it. So I finally settled on the rucksack. And I am so happy I did. So the rucksack is, so this is it. This is it. It has, all of the bags had these little kind of safety clips for holding stitch markers. And this is, as I was saying, this is the angel wing and the rose. But it also came with 3 of these. One of them is being used as a stitch marker now. But it came with 3 of these like kind of lotus flowery looking ones. And it's got this nice zip pouch. And then it's got a pocket here. And then it has pockets here on the back for stuff. But again, it's a snap open. So the snap's open, so you can pull your yarn out through that, or it has this. So you feed your yarn through that, and it feeds your yarn through, which I love because it's super simple. I never would have thought to put it in there, and like it's so cool. And then the inside is kind of uneventful. There's no pockets or anything, so it's kind of just like it's a rucksack. It's one big sack for things, but it was only like $60-something, and I now use it all the time, and I'm absolutely loving this like navy blue color, and I'm in love. Sorry, just totally touched the mic again. I'm in love with it. And then I also got some, I don't know where I put them. I think they're outside of my room. But they're like little terrarium. I might insert a photo here of them. They're little like plant stitch markers that are super duper cute. And then, oh dang it, I forgot to give that to her. I got stickers. Because who doesn't? So this is a little ticket. It says, welcome to the shit show. Admit one. I was going to give this to my friend, but since I forgot, I will now take it for myself. And then I also got, they didn't have a knit version of these, or I also would have gotten a knit version, but it says, I like crochet and maybe 3 people. That's a bit of a lie. I like more than 3 people. Okay, outside of my family, it's maybe 3 people, but including my family, it's a lot more people. But those were my acquisitions from Jimmy Bean's Wool. If you're ever in the Reno area, I would advise you stop there because it is an experience. That's also where I brought this yarn into to kind of try and color match it to a mohair, because they had both Knitting and Olive and Rowan mohair. And even though I think one of the Rowan mohairs is a better fit, I prefer the price point of the Knitting for Olive. And that's all the things I got from Jimmy Bean's. And my last stop was a shop in Truckee, which is actually it was cool. Oh, I have to go hold on. I forgot that I have another thing I have to get that I put on my bookshelf for this. So, the shop I went to, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm going to take my best guess. Atelier? I will. This is their stitch marker. It's a cool little sea anemone flower looking thing. And that's actually where I got both of the bags, the snap bag and then this tote bag. Oh, let me move. So this tote bag is bare bones. It is very, very big. This is probably like extra large project bag, but it is quite literally, there are no pockets, there's nothing. There's just the tote bag, it zips, and that's it, which I actually quite like. So part of the thing is you could pre-order the merch at any of the shops, and I pre-ordered mine at I'm going to call it at A. And because it was supposed to be my first stop, I was supposed to go there and then go, you know the lake, go there to Truckee and then drive 80 and come down to Reno and then go to Carson and then come up state line and come back. Because at the same time, the Davis fire was happening, so Mount Rose Highway was closed, so I couldn't really break it up into 2 days. Well, I could, but there was no point. I was just going to have to go like in a circle or go out and back, and it would have been weird. So it was supposed to be my first stop of the crawl, but my friend ended up having to push our lunch from like 12:30 to 3:30. And so I made it my last stop because it would make more sense to go to one yarn shop after lunch rather than having to drive and go to 2 different ones kind of farther away because they all closed at like 5, 6. And so I didn't know how much time I was going to have. So I picked up I picked up the bags, and then I looked around and my wallet was hurting and I didn't know what to do, and I kind of just was really tired and wanted to go home. And then I saw this. So this is the Shetland Trader Book 3 Heritage by Gudrun Johnston. And I picked it up because of this sweater on the front. It's also here in the back in like a different color work, 2 different color work versions. And I flipped through it and I realized that I loved like all of the patterns in here. And as I flipped through it more and more, I realized, hey, I've seen some of these patterns before. And that I had. So, as I've talked about previously, I follow a YouTube channel called Retro Claude. And Claude has a series called Stash Busting. And she's done 2 of these patterns in the Stash Busting video. She's done the Maywick, which is this like chevron zigzaggy blouse, which I absolutely loved on her. Like, I found it beautiful. And she's done the Tara shawl, which is like, sorry about the glare, but the Tara shawl. And so I was like, done getting this. And so I like grabbed the book, first thing I grabbed, then I looked around a bit more, and I really liked both of the kits. So each store had kits along with it. So they were like, this is our featured pattern, this is the kit you can buy, whatever. They had like a cowl, I think. They had a cowl, and then they had like mug cozies were the knit and the crochet kits. And I really liked the cowl, and I really liked the kits that they had put together and like the colors that they had. And then I looked and I was like, they're $75. I can't spend that much right now. especially if I'm going to get a book, especially after buying all the other stuff. I might have done it if it was my first stop, but it wasn't. And that was okay, because I ended up getting this awesome book that I'm hoping to do all of the patterns in, which I very rarely do that. A lot of the books, I get it for like 3 of the patterns rather than all of them. And I get this absolutely stunning yarn so this is, I'm going to take off the thing so you can see it in all of its magnificent glory. I don't know what I'm going to make with this because this was the only one on the sale shelf. It was on sale and it was the only one there. There were a couple of colors I might go back and see because there were a couple of complementary colors that were like from the same dyer that were obviously like they had made those batches and then they kind of just put them all together in this. So this is Nerdy Fibers for the yarn nerd in us all. And it's got this cute little like lamb or sheep with glasses. And this is the Amos Fingering 100% non-superwash merino, 437 yards in 10 grams. And it is called Daylily. And this is like fall in a yarn for me. I don't know what I'm going to make with it. I love it so much. I might make socks. I don't know. Someone give me ideas, but I'm nerding out of this. I love this color so much. So I might just keep it because I love it so much until I find like the absolute perfect thing to make with it. So that's everything. And then I checked out and I turned in my passport and I went home. And then I had dinner and I slept for 3 days straight. Just kidding, because I had to get up and go to church on the next day, and then I had school on the Monday after. So busy week. Oh, I forgot, because like part of one of the posts the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl showed, and because I got those skeins for the Tudor blouse, these ones, one of the like things that Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl posted was like, hey, these shops are going to be super busy. They might not always have time to wind up your yarn for you. And I had been looking for an excuse to get a yarn swift for a while. So I went on Amazon and I just kind of like, I just ordered a cheap yarn swift. So that's my actual last acquisition. It's pretty good. I wouldn't recommend a plastic one. I would recommend wood, just because it has these like clips where it gets in, and I've had like the yarn get like stuck in here, and so I've had to like stop and like put it out, take it out, but something you don't think of until you have it. But I'm going to use this until I absolutely cannot use it anymore. And then I'll buy a wooden one because I don't like throwing away perfectly good things. Nobody should. So that's everything. This is a particularly long one, so I will just leave you with thank you for watching. Thank you for staying till the end. I hope you have a magnificent rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of your month. Let me know what you were working on during this podcast. I am going to go get some water and some lunch. And I'll leave you with that. Have a wonderful day. Bye.